Join the Rotary Club of Neepawa for Rotary Presents, a twice-monthly presentation and Q&A with a different guest about topics at the heart of Neepawa.
Hello, everybody. It is my pleasure to bring to you today Caitlin Henderson, who is our new librarian at the Neepawa Public Library. I'm not going to tell you too much about her and give her the opportunity to talk about herself. But I will say, on behalf of Rotary and on behalf of the library board, we're very pleased to have her. There are a bunch of new programs that have been initiated in the library, and we're going to hear about them now. So come on up.
Almost like, is this what it's like as a teacher where everybody sits further
Definitely.
I'll hold it up. Like she said, I'm Caitlin Henderson. I'm technically the branch supervisor at the library. Not officially a librarian. You'll get a master's for that, and I was not committing my life to school. So I just started in the library. I know I've seen some of you, especially with the reading volunteer aspect. I don't think I've seen all of you. So we can say hi after. But yeah, I thought, talk about some of the programs we're doing, if there's anything else. And starting off, a huge thank you guys for volunteering for doing our story times on Fridays. I know if you've been a volunteer lately, the attendance has been a little down. We're blaming the weather for most of that, because this winter has been a rough one for everybody. But we do want to continue that, and we do very much appreciate having someone there to take over even just the small reading aspect of it, because we've been trying to do more and more at the library, and we can only do so much in a day, so having some volunteers to help with that has been tremendous. Plus, kids getting to see someone new, it's a little exciting. So yeah, thought I could talk about some of our other programs that we're doing, and then especially if anyone likes some of the stuff and wants to volunteer some more, we'll definitely take it. But usually we, up until this fall, we've had just our regular day-to-day staff trying to compensate and come up with some programs that they can fit into their schedule. But luckily this fall we actually got to hire a part-time programming creator, so that has helped a lot to get us doing a whole lot more, which I'm just going to list off a bunch of the things that we're offering now, because we have we do Switch games every once in a while, like the gaming console. We've now started the Dungeons and Dragons Club. We do Lego Club, we do puzzle clubs, we have board games for kids, teens, and adults. We reintroduced a writing club. We've got 2 different book clubs now. And then we have our baby time, which is basically the story time that you guys help out with, but just for younger kids. And then, like I said, the story time, we often have once a month like a Get Crafty program, things like that. I'm like, oh my goodness. I feel like I'm missing something. But yeah, we do take-home crafts as well. It's kind of like almost a program that people can just take with them instead of having to do it in the library. And then, let's see, am I missing any of them? Don't think so. Well, luckily our board games, most of those get to the teen and the adult ones are actually run by volunteers, which has helped a lot. The kids one we've added on, and now we do that as a library staff program. But all of those, and those are just the regular occurring once a month or a couple times a month things. We still do one-off events every once in a while, like we did the Santa letter writings in December and things like that. So that's some of the stuff we do now. Does anyone need clarification on some of those programs? Because I know some of them are a little different sounding. Or does everyone kind of know what those programs are? Especially the Dungeons and Dragons is usually the one that throws people off for like the Switch games. Those are the ones that people are like, what even is that? Right, I'm going to throw you out there as being someone who comes to the Dungeons and Dragons program, and that's one that's slowly building, but it's a very interactive, creative, I would say, program. And yeah, you're just going through your fantasy world and doing your quests and whatnot, and that's been one that's been slowly.
Doesn't come to this one, but does that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's like jazz. I'm like, jazz
Jazz the person.
Yeah. That makes much more sense. And then on top of all that, we're also open Saturdays now, which means we can do even more programming on those days, plus just to be more accessible for our patrons in general, which that's also another one that we've seen quite the steady increase of people coming out for that. Because we know, especially this town, there's a lot of the 9 to 5, those are the operating hours, you go home after and then that's it. So we're open late on Thursdays now, and then we're also additionally open Saturdays. So now we're really open that anyone should be able to find time to come to the library. And then, something else exciting for the programming to add in there. We're always looking for new programs to offer, and especially we did a call out recently that if anyone had any skills or like unique talents that they wanted to share with anybody, that we could create a program around it. So looking at many people here, that I'm sure some people have some skills in crafts or tech or things that we don't already offer programs for. We're trying to recruit some people to teach, because things like we would love to have like a crochet program, but none of us at the library know how to crochet, so we can't really teach that one. So if anyone has any skills, talents, crafts that they do, we're always looking for someone that can maybe help us out for getting a program off the ground, because yeah, like I said, we're doing as much as we can right now, but there are some things that we want to cover, but we just don't have the skills or knowledge of, like
Electronics.
No. And I think many of those things we're trying to get some of those started, but we just need at least a volunteer to help us get started so that we can take off with it after that. But especially, and I keep saying crochet, especially, I don't know if anyone here crochets. That one's a selfish one too. There's a couple of us at the library that want to know how to crochet. So we would love to attend that program ourselves. Otherwise, I do have some lists, because we're now getting into the habit this year of, we're now trying to come up with like our monthly at a glance that people can see what we've got going on. So I do have copies of, this one's January, so sadly we're almost over for that, but I do have a couple of copies if anybody wants it, just to see kind of an overview of what we've got going on. And then I think I'm trying to be pretty quick, because I do have to get going, unfortunately. But is there any questions on our program? Oh, yeah.
You mentioned all kinds of programs you are running. What kind of uptake have you had for the various programs? Is it a few and growing each time?
Yeah, that's kind of what we're starting at. And the problem, there was a little bit of timing, I'd say, for when we got to hire a programming person to offer more things versus the weather and the season we hired them in, because they started in fall, then we just went into winter. And yeah, usually winter attendance goes down for a lot of things, but especially some of the new programs or programs that kind of were paused for a while that we got to bring back, we've been getting that, steady increase. So I think, because we're just doing year-end counting right now, and I think for last year we had just over 200 events overall, still counting up all the attendance for it. But yeah, you can definitely tell the days it's like, oh yep, that's a day we had a blizzard, and then some programs like the D&D, it's like that each time, a few more people show up, and it's that slow build up, which we do like, because then it shows that people are committed. For that at least, it makes it a little easier. What's up?
So for your programs, do they sort of all run, continuously, or are there some that are like 6 or 8 weeks or something like that? How do they work?
Usually, all of our programs are kind of like standalone. We might offer them multiple times, but they're usually something that you can attend once and say, oh no, that was good for me, or you could attend each time we offer it. I think, again, the Dungeons & Dragons might be the only one that kind of ends up being more than once that you might want to show up for, but most of the other stuff, it's a one-off, or like you can just drop in at any point. And then, we don't offer too many of the long commitment ones, because people are hard to schedule around life sometimes to do anything that's too long. So we like to do the one-off events just to make it easier to schedule in your life for most people.
That schedule that you have there, are the monthly updates online?
Yeah, we do post it. The website is kind of under construction, so we don't get to post too much on that right now. But our Facebook page is mostly where we post it for online, and then we do have in branch, like we have.
And it's essential for our library.
Yep. So there is confusing some people occasionally because being part of the region, but then also just being our branch, the finding us online, sometimes people get a little confused because yeah, we do have a Neepawa Public Library for all of our social media and whatnot, but then there is also like a Facebook account for the region overall, so there is a Western Manitoba Regional Library page as well, but they'll share each other's stuff, so as long as you're following one of them, I would recommend following Neepawa Public Library online.
Can you explain the relationship between the Neepawa Public Library and the regional library?
Oh yes, that I can go dive into that a little bit more, because that one does throw some people off. But yes, we are part of the Western Manitoba Regional Library, which is the head office is in Brandon. They do their main branch is kind of where we get like they do most of our cataloging. That's where our HR stuff goes through. They're kind of the overall big office for us, and then yeah, we have the branches. They got 2 in Brandon, and then us, Hartney, Glenboro, and Carberry. We're all connected to each other, which we mostly get to kind of function as our own little branches, but we do get to lean on each other for our biggest thing is resource sharing. So any of the books, magazines, movies, all the fun stuff that we rent out, we can share with each other, which helps because our building's only so big. We can't fit every single book that we want in there, but they made it really easy that we can share all the things with each other, and then it also helps with staff because even programming, we could be like, hey, downtown branch, do you have any template for a program that we can borrow? It makes the day-to-day flow for staff go a little bit easier in those things because yes, we can share a little bit more with each other, and yeah, so we get to be, and it's a nice balance of we're connected to the main branches and we're reporting to, but we do get enough power to like stand on our own and still be an independent branch and cater to our patrons and whatnot, but we can lean on the main branch and the other branches for things, which is nice. And I saw someone else. We got 2 people.
So, speaking of Brandon, did you hear how they made out with the location in the mall? Was there any damage or anything?
Yeah, so the Shoppers branch is temporarily closed for their actual, like where they're normally located. They have a temporary pop-up in another empty spot in the mall. Because yes, unfortunately there was a fire at the mall itself, and the library was just close enough that it's mostly smoke damage, luckily not a whole lot of physical damage to the place, but unfortunately getting the smoke smell out of books is not a fun one. So they're expecting to be closed for a little while, but luckily Michelle, who's the supervisor there, she's doing a lot of work with some other community groups, like they're running a program out of a different community center right now, and the mall's lent them the space to temporarily house some of their books that weren't caught in the building at the time. So that's one thing. Right now we're short 1 branch for some of our books because anything that was in the branch at that time is off limits to us until they've decided things are clear enough to circulate again, unfortunately.
I know you're relatively new to Neepawa. I don't know
Yes.
whether you were in the library system prior to that.
I was, yep.
Okay, so I guess my question is, given the proliferation of online material over the last, 10 or 20 years, has there been a sort of a noticed reduction in the usage of print material?
Surprisingly not. It hasn't dipped much at all because one thing is enough people still really enjoy that holding a book sensation. There's still enough people that enjoy that, but we also do have digital books and audiobooks and whatnot, so we do get to count numbers there as well. So some patrons we have, technically we might not even see them ever except to renew their card, and they'll be strictly at home. I'm reading on my tablet and do that. So we do still get some digital numbers that way, and lots of people are usually like a hybrid of digital and print, because even myself, like I'm constantly, Libby's the app that we do the digital stuff through, and I'm constantly on there grabbing stuff, but then I also have a million holds at the branch to pick up, and most patrons I would say are kind of like a hybrid, which we get numbers for both of them, and then there's enough people that are still strictly physical print and then enough people that are digital that, yeah, it's worked out that technically, throwing it back a couple decades ago, yeah, our print stats were probably a bit higher, but we balanced it out with the digital stats. And sometimes the wait periods for things, people were like, oh, the book's on the shelf, I'll just grab it then. Or funny enough, lots of people, if they really like something, they're like, they want to experience all formats of it. They're like, yes, I want the audiobook, but then I also want to read the physical book just to see how the name's spelt instead of how it sounds. There's enough balance, and luckily, especially with some aspects of social media, we've managed to keep enough people interested in certain books, because especially like on TikTok or Instagram, there's a whole section dedicated to like readers and book collecting and whatnot. So people will be like, wow, this book was amazing, and then suddenly you'll see the holds list for the book in our library will just go up, because it's like, oh, suddenly everyone on TikTok is talking about it. Now everybody wants to read it. So luckily, we've managed to say enough people, because yes, you can get a lot of books online, but especially with how expensive some stuff is getting, people are more coming to the library, because who wants to spend $40-50 on a book now when they can just borrow it from the library? Because most times people read it once and then that's it. So yeah, you're not going to want to go spend all that money when you can just pop into your local library.
So for anyone who does want to volunteer with the library, what roles are sort of available?
Well, like I said, if there's any, the biggest one we're looking for is the new programs, the coming up with, again, the example of crochet, things like that, where we don't currently offer it. We would love to offer those things, but we are a little bit limited for how much staff time we can spend and our knowledge and whatnot. So those are the big ones where it's a little bit more abstract, because what we don't offer is pretty much any topic we can cover, but we want some people that, yeah, like if you can crochet, if you're good with the computer, if you're good at repairing something, doing like a repair clinic with patrons would be fun for things. So we need some volunteers for things like that, where it's just a unique skill or talent or knowledge that you have that we don't have ourselves that we can offer to the public. Because even something like, oh, if you know another language, could you teach like an intro class? Things like that is mostly what we're looking for. Otherwise, you guys cover our story time already, which is, again, huge help. But if anyone was ever wanting to be like, oh yeah, like I could be in charge of book club this month, or I got a cool kids craft, I could take over we call them the Get Crafty event, which we do once a month. Things like that, we can always fit people into our current programs, sometimes it's nice to change it up, but we really want to get some of those additional programs of the knowledge that we're kind of the gaps we want to fill for, yeah, additional crafts and language and all those fun things. We want to try to fill those gaps. Because again, we only have so much hours in our day that we want to try to get some new stuff going.
Is most of the program an evening program, or programming evenings, or?
No, we have it's pretty mixed bag. We try, because we do, depending on the age range and whatnot of the program, because if it's for kids that are like 0 to 3, usually those are a daytime thing, because stay-at-home parents are an easy one to bring up, because looking for something free to do, especially the free aspect, because all of our stuff is free. In today's age, it's hard to find things to do that are free. So usually that, or if it's like a school-age kid, trying to get them like right after school is usually the best time to get them, because once you get home, usually you're done for the day. And then yeah, weekends are a nice one that we've added in just to catch anybody. But yeah, we've kind of, depending on what the program is, we'll cater what time of the day or what day of the week it happens on, just to cover all bases. We try to offer at least something at all time periods, just so that there's something, because like even our book club is a good example. Like the main book club, it happens at 11:30 on the third Thursdays, but for some people, especially if you're working and whatnot, harder to get to that book club, so that's why we decided in the fall to offer an evening book club, so it starts at 6 o'clock. So yeah, hopefully, we've had a few people that, yeah, they work all day, so now they get to come to that book club instead of just missing it entirely.
Are operations at the library funded?
How are they?
Yeah.
It mostly comes from, the biggest chunk of funding is municipality funding. And that's all calculated on, like population and current like levy rates and whatnot. Brandon handles most of that, like they're the ones that gather up all the funds and divide it between us all. And then we additionally have a little bit of a fund. We have our advisory committee that's specifically local, whereas the library board is connected of like all the different regions that we cover, like all those branches that I mentioned earlier. All of those, they all work together to come up with the yearly budget and decide how the funds are being split up. So we have 2 reps from Neepawa that, yeah, they're representing us on the board, and they get to help decide overall for the region how things are shooting up for that. And then like most of the rest of it's like government funding and whatnot. Small bit is self-generated, but we don't charge for too many things, so that budget's like really tiny. And then, yeah, locally we have the advisory committee that is specifically just for our branch and our local area, and for that one, there's a little bit of funds for that one. They can decide more for us what that should look like, and they can kind of help advise too. We can bring that to like the bigger library board if there's anything, and but we have a small bit that we can use just for us locally, and then the rest of it, our funding, yeah, we split between the branches, and everything is split up relatively evenly based on, yeah, again, population and size and whatnot, because us versus Brandon, we're obviously very different size, population, and patrons and whatnot, but they generally keep it pretty easy. And again, we get to share so many things that luckily it works out pretty well, that even for like book buying, they usually are able to spread it out amongst everyone pretty evenly and things like that. So it's a lot of complicated things, and luckily again, we have many people over many branches to help make it easier for planning all that and coordinating it all.
Could you name the towns? I know I can name some of them, and it always surprises me who is not in Westman Regional Library. What libraries are in Westman Regional Library that when I go online, I can get books from?
Because the branches that are in, because my problem is, I'm from up north, we don't have so many communities up there that trying to think of which ones aren't, I'm like, where even is that sometimes? That's been my biggest learning curve coming here.
Okay.
So many little communities and towns and where the municipality lines are.
Gordon's in a different one,
Which one?
Henry was in a different one, Minnedos is in a different one.
Yeah. Yeah, which that part, especially the Minnedosa one, throws people off, because it seems when you're looking at the map of where what branches are included, Minnedosa is kind of like the oddball
And Rivers is
sitting in there. Yeah, because we've got, yeah, the Brandon, us, Hartney, Glenboro, Carberry, and then North Cypress, Langford is included. Anybody that attends or works for Beautiful Plains gets counted as part of the region as well.
Okay.
So that's lots of, especially the colonies, because some of their schools are Beautiful Plains, so they, even if they're not technically in one of our regions, they can still get a card for free, because we have an agreement with the school region. Yeah, so the boundary of them, yeah, it's kind of harder to pinpoint, but most of the time we don't have too many people now that count as non-resident. There's a few outliers, and we're still working on bringing on some final regions to get them to count, because we are the closest library for some things. Like, yeah, like our of Rosedale isn't part of our region, even though it's right there. And things like that get a bit triggered, because people assume it's like, yeah, like I'm in Neepawa basically, and it's like technically where the municipality lines fall, you're not, that's the unfortunate part. But we always try as hard to get as many different workarounds for making people not have to pay, because even if you like own a business in town, that can count for a discounted rate. So we're so many ways that we're like, here's like the list of things that we're trying. It's like, okay, now we've gone through those, now we have to charge you full price for a membership. But yeah, you can still be charged for membership, so you can still use the library even if you're not.
Any more questions? Caitlin, I want to thank you today for coming to the club. It's nice, personally speaking, to be able to put a face and a name together, and for bringing us up to date on what goes on at the library. Thank you very much for coming today, and a small token of our appreciation.